Hello, everyone. Hello, and good morning. I am going to be your watcher on the web, filling in for Scott, who is sadly absent. But I am joined, as always, by my good friend Joe Dolio, who's on the road today. Joe, how are you?
Greetings. I am well and good. And I just want to say that the theme sounds amazing through the Bose speakers in my car. And it is pretty darned deluxe. Rolling down the road, blasting that out. So awesome. I am on my way to NC Scouts Place for the good times that are going to ensue there. And I hope others can join us there.
Oh, it does sound like a good time, and yeah, man, I miss having a car with a decent set of speakers. I did at one point have one that I outfitted with Rockford Fosgates, and I was very sorry to let that one go. Good to see all of you out there in the chat. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Good to see you. Well, I'm Corey. I hope everything goes well with oncology. Uh, let's see. Oh yeah, mountain readiness tomorrow. That's right. A bunch of people leaving for mountain readiness tomorrow. Joe, I think you wanted to say something about that. I'm okay tipping that off before we even get started. If you are.
Yeah, I'm heading for mountain readiness tomorrow. I'm going to get to Matt's and I'm going to press gang Matt and hunch into unloading my car so we can load it back up with books and T-shirts and gear for the land navigation class I'll be teaching at it. So for those who don't know, mountain readiness is a preparedness and self-reliance festival. It's in Harmony, North Carolina, at the Van Hoy's Family Campground. There'll also be a Renaissance fair going on at the same time, so there will be turkey legs abound. Yeah. Matt will be doing night vision demonstrations with his vehicle and his driving lights that are night vision. I'll be doing a land navigation class on Friday. A lot of classes out there, like our friend Wes Hightower, who does some work for Ford Observer, and a lot of other people. Pete Robertucci of the Eaton Army, Angry American, just a lot of us in Harmony. Come on out and see us. I know a lot of you in the chat will be there. It's going to be a great, great time. So come on out and join us. It'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Classes all day long. Music and campfires at night. I imagine there may well be a bottle or two passed around. So this could be a good time.
Oh, it sounds like it. Also, you get those weird Renaissance fair chicks. I'm into it.
I heard a rumor that Mrs. Washer was one of those weird Renaissance fair chicks, but hey, what do I know?
I think you heard an accurate rumor. I did ask Mrs. Watcher what sport when we first started dating. I asked Mrs. Watcher what sports she did growing up, and she said fencing, and that was it for me, boys. That was it for me, boys.
That is a keeper right there. So,
all right. Oh, a bunch of people say they're on their way to mountain readiness. Awesome, guys. I wish you the best of luck. I wish I could be there, but such is life when you start a small farm. I suppose that is one of the trade-offs they never talk to you about in some of preparedness, is that there are some preparedness steps you could take that make you less able to travel.
right.
And getting a couple hundred chickens is one of those steps.
Yeah, somebody does have to tend the chickens. But you will be at Mountain Readiness West.
I will. Yep. And I'm excited for that, for the very first inaugural Mountain Readiness West. So
that's going to be July 26th to the 28th of 2025 or 2026. So
2026. Anyway. Yeah, if we make it that far, right?
Yeah. We'll either be having an event there, or it will be a resisted space. It'll be one of the two things.
one or the other. People will be there, yeah. Hey, I just wanted to say real quick, thank you, Low-Key Larp, for the 5 gifted subs, and thank you so much, Hunch Dirty Roofer. Watcher, let Joe know his Ex Umbris box has arrived.
Yes, so that was something I meant to mention when we were talking about mountain readiness. If you don't already have a Tactical Wisdom Exumbris Designs radio pouch for your Baofeng AR-152 or Baofeng AR-5, I have the remaining supply, and they will be there. I'll have a stack of them, and you won't have to pay shipping. You'll just be able to pick it right up and take it with you. So come on by and pick one up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And before we get started, I will give that out. I'll talk about that for just a second. Thanks, Bob, for reminding me. Yeah. For anybody who didn't see, I personally am doing good. I got a small win yesterday that I don't know where my brain's at, but I didn't even realize it was a win until after it was way over, and I was talking with my mother-in-law. But yeah, drunk driver crashed into somebody else in front of my house. They both ended up on my lawn. They dumped all their antifreeze and oil all over the lawn, and it killed it. And yesterday, I was asked by mother-in-law to submit a quote for what it was going to cost. And I had been doing a lot of work because I had never done an install like this, so I've never quoted it before. So I had been doing a lot of work in weeks prior to know what I was doing. So I gave her the quote and then handed it over. And then like an hour later was staring out the window at the patch that was going to have to get fixed and was like, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to get paid to do that.
That's pretty awesome.
So, yeah. My first install job, and I get paid to do it at my own house. So that's kind of, yeah, that works out.
That's good.
Yeah.
And now on the flip side of that, Scott has gotten after-school detention today, so he won't be joining us.
Yeah. I think he was passing notes in class again. Tuss. Anyhow, folks, we've got some cool topics for you today. I'm not going to lie, we are panning just a little bit because we do have one special guest who's going to join for segment one, hopefully, because he is our expert in those areas. Well, hopefully we'll get to see him soon. Feet pics. Oh, you don't want feet pics, man. I just had surgery on my feet. It's even worse than normal. All right, let's move into the odds and ends, shall we? And look, well, I know.
I'll tell you. Let me point something out. What else he's an expert at before he comes on. That way it doesn't go to his head. He is an expert on running a grill, and he's an expert on sitting on his deck with me, sipping on a beverage and critiquing the golf of the people on the golf course in front of his house. So.
That does sound like a very him activity.
Yes.
Well, like I said, hopefully we get joined by him. But for now, we're going to move into the odds and ends. And while the show has been fairly cheerful so far, I'm going to warn you that odds and ends number one is a gut punch, and it's on purpose. So prepare yourselves. For those of you who didn't see this. Heartbreaking. Erica Kirk reveals what their daughter had to say to Daddy for his birthday. This was yesterday. Was he presented the Presidential Freedom Medal posthumously on his birthday? Is that how that lined up?
I don't know.
I think it is. So all right, let's watch.
And before I close, I'll share with you that I asked our daughter.
Let me pause. Welcome, Jim. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. So we're going to watch something a little bit heavy first. This is our first odds and ends. Just figured I'd prep you for this before we go any further. This is Erica Kirk on what was her husband's birthday as he was being posthumously presented the Presidential Freedom Medal.
And before I close, I'll share with you that I asked our daughter what she would like to say to Daddy for his birthday. Excuse me. She said, "Happy birthday, Daddy. I want to give you a stuffed animal." She said, "Happy birthday, Daddy. I want to give you a stuffed animal." She said,
Uh-oh. Hold on. I don't know what's going on. I've got like 4 different sources echoing. Okay, fixed it.
I want you to eat a cupcake with ice cream. And I want you to go have a birthday surprise. I love you, is what she said. And while our son is precious, he can't yet speak. In classic Kirk family fashion, his actions spoke louder than his words. And his gift to you, Charlie, and myself for that matter, was deciding to become the man of the house and be fully potty trained at 16 months. But Charlie, baby, I know that you're celebrating in heaven today, but gosh, I miss you.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to personally keep reminding you guys about this for a very long time. I don't feel that is something you should ever forget. So.
Yeah, we had this conversation yesterday with some people that a month out or a month and a half out, whatever it is, that folks it's out of the news cycle, so folks have let their rage subside. Please do not. Always remember it and always do it. And I want to point out that the young Master Kirk there, listen, I'm well over 16 months old and I'm still not fully potty trained. So outstanding work, young lad. Outstanding work.
Are we ever fully potty trained, Joe? But yeah, sorry to drop you in on such a heavy topic, Jim. Kind of figured we'd be past that by the time you joined us.
No, it's okay. I watched it yesterday. It was very moving, and it is reverberating, and it won't be forgotten.
So yeah, we'll get to the China topic here in just a moment, but I think that before we get there was a bit of another interesting thing here, which is I don't know if you guys saw the news. Israel's now refusing to open the Rafah crossing as Hamas fails to return the bodies of slain hostages, and I mean it doesn't even say this in the article, but it turns out returning a bunch of bodies that do not belong to hostages. Playing fuck games. Hamas returned just 4 of 28 hostages' bodies on Monday, also releasing all remaining living hostages. But Israeli leaders have condemned what they call a serious breach of what was agreed to in Trump's brokered ceasefire deal. The Israeli military has so far confirmed the identities of at least 2 of them. Congratulations to the families. I don't know. A student from Nepal. Well, that would indicate why one of them. So I heard some speculation about this. Gentlemen, if you want to drop in on this, feel free. I'm not sure they even have control of all the bodies anymore. I would suspect.
Well, I think that's probably why you're not getting all the bodies back, is they've lost track of them, or they're so horribly mutilated and damaged and tortured that they don't want the world to see that. So they're either not going to return them or they're going to return the wrong bodies.
Yeah. I'm also thinking that probably, I could be wrong here, I think maybe a decent portion of them, though, were in some of these tunnels which have now been collapsed and blown up and sealed off.
Yep, they agreed to something they can't fulfill.
And this might surprise you all. I don't know. But terrorists are not good people. So maybe entering into agreements with them is silly to begin with.
Yeah. I did kind of wonder if it might go this way so I should clarify, I'm not 100% on this. I don't completely understand it, but I do believe that there is some part of Jewish tradition that essentially says that every remaining portion of the body has to be buried for it to be closed. Can anybody help me with that one? I'm not sure. And so I
don't know.
I'll look it up, but I believe that is what's being run up against here. Is that it's Jewish tradition demands every single one of those bodies.
More than Jewish tradition, common human decency demands it. Right?
I completely agree. We are still negotiating. Well, I mean, not currently. I think Trump solved the last of those, but we had still been negotiating for the return bodies of our war dead from Korea since that conflict closed.
So what you're saying is communists and terrorists aren't human. Yeah, I already knew that.
Pretty much, yeah. Some of the families of hostages which have not yet been returned are calling the government to put the Gaza deal on hold until they are returned. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think they would. I think Netanyahu would obviously love to continue pursuing this as much as he can. I also think that international support probably isn't there for bodies.
Well, I think you go ahead, Jim. I'll wait.
No, I just it is important, Joe, that people get their remains back for closure. Within the Orthodoxy, it's especially strong. Yeah, I don't think this is going to go on hold over most of this, but it's Groundhog Day with Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranians. They will do this, and they'll do this forever. It's a negotiating technique. It's a game playing technique. But I think the Israelis understood that the bodies coming back would be an issue. But you got to ask.
Yeah, I think that.
Go ahead.
They're just going to delay and try to wring more concessions out of both sides. So,
yeah, I think we're fresh out of concessions in this Gaza thing. I think what you're going to see is a collection of people, and the battle that's going on now is not unlike the de-Baathification argument that was made in Iraq. Do you keep people around who have skills? I don't know. I think in the case of Hamas, they're going to have to start ground up on municipal rebuilding skills. If they rely on Hamas, they're making a serious error.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Also, I mean, it's not mentioned here, but as far as I understand it, the other portion of this deal that Hamas has breached since day one is that they were supposed to surrender their weapons.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. And here's a problem. I like to always bring things back to some old school beliefs of things like honor. And you cannot rely on the honor of men who have no honor. It's that simple.
Always correct, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. It goes back to a thought I was having the other day, which is it feels like where Western society went wrong was from believing that that violence is a last resort to that whole meme about violence being the last resort of the incompetent, which when you're dealing with people whose only goal is your destruction, there's no conversation to be had. There's no deals to be made or to be struck. Well, I guess maybe not none. I'm happy in this case that the 20 hostages that were returned, right? And we can't look that over. Those are 20 people that for sure would have been dead that aren't dead now. But when you look at even who was still alive, right? Like that, even that is infuriating.
I believe the number is 60, but yes, you are right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I foresee that the Israel's going to do as much as they can. I think part of why this is all over is because international support is gone once the hostages are back, right? So it's going to be very hard for them at this point to be able to do much besides fortify their borders.
What was the source in that news story that said that they closed the gate? Because the actual truth of the story is they closed it after 300 trucks.
Yeah.
So who
wrote
that?
So we need to figure out where it came from originally, because it's through Zero Hedge, and as you know, Zero Hedge just goes out and poaches other stories. So
yeah. Well, my point is that whoever wrote the article originally, not Zero Hedge, but whoever wrote it originally, was trying to slant it and make it appear as though it was something that it was not. Because they did allow, they did allow 300 trucks in, but they said, oh, they only allowed 300. Well, how many trucks do you think need to go in at any one time? And as someone who has manned a checkpoint or two in my life, to get over 300, I can't keep track of what was in the trucks when they came in and what's going to be in the trucks when they come out at more than that. So I would watch, because UN is famous for this, to see what else is added into the trucks and who else crews these trucks on the way out. And if they're allowing some known folks who are not part of the deal, notoriously bad individuals, to slip out in the aid truck crews.
Yeah. Forging Freedom TV says, I think the U.S. and Israel were fully aware that Hamas would not comply with everything. That's why the first condition was getting the hostages who were alive back first. Yeah. I agree with you on that one. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to say I hope they get them all any more fervently than I already have. UNRWA did participate in October 7th. You're absolutely right. Look, there's a reason that you haven't heard much from the UN since a couple days after October 7th. All right, gents. The next one is actually one I'm really excited for. I read this morning, and it was I don't know. It put some pep in my step. Gents, the Department of Energy is now meeting with nuclear companies to kick off Defense Production Act Consortium. Today, October 14th, yesterday, as the Office of Nuclear Energy wrote back in August, should mark the first meeting of the Defense Production Act Consortium, who will seek agreements with U.S. nuclear companies as part of an effort to rebuild the nation's nuclear fuel supply chain. This is a big deal.
Well, I have some mixed feelings here because, we need to re-kick off nuclear power, but I am never a fan of the words Defense Production Act, because there are nefarious aspects of that in which the government can use to club to death the businesses that are involved and force them to sell things below cost, seize things they want, and whatever. So mixed feelings on this one.
I think that's true. That's absolutely true that they could do that. What I think is being done with the Defense Production Act, and I could be wrong, is I think it's being used, or the planned to be used, as a sword to cut through the environmental regulations.
Absolutely, but like every good sword that has two edges, there are two edges to that sword.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
All right, I got to jump out for just a second, but I'll be right back.
Alrighty. Sounds like you hit a Buc-ee's.
Exactly. So no
Buc-ee's.
What I'm seeing with no Buc-ee's. Is he in Ohio? So the more I'm seeing of the Defense Production Act in this case, we gave up our fuel capability, sold off a bunch of the materials to the Russians. We rely on the Russians heavily for imported materials now. It's just reversing that. And if people want to go look at it, they can go back to a company called USEC many years ago. Hillary Clinton was involved, and it was the offshoring of a lot of American activities. Shutdown of Yucca Flats as a place to put spent fuel. You can just go down the whole thing. But the facilities in South Carolina and Tennessee are in good shape. They just need some investment. They need next generation equipment and processing equipment. So they're going to go at this aggressively in a well-funded way. But there's also a desire to build out a fuel capacity for domestic nuclear power generation within the same bolus of money that's going through defense. And that's absolutely mandatory. Are they cutting through environmental? No, I don't think they'll cut through environmental. I think what they'll do is they'll keep the spurious lawsuits that have historically shut nuclear power down, extended the time windows so long that they become unviable economically. I think that's what the Defense Production Act will do in this case. It'll stop the spurious lawsuits from the nonprofits whose sole job is spurious lawsuits.
Oh, see, I thought that was the environmental.
And they know who they are.
Yeah, I thought that was environmental though, because isn't that most of their strategies? Your runoff water will raise the water temperature by 1 degree, which will affect this tiny fish.
and then you get the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Southern Environmental Law Center and these other organizations in, and they all file suit. You get the Surf Rider Foundation in California and the Audubon Society, and they roll them all in. And there are 3 or 4 of these law firms. I think one's in Minnesota, Wisconsin, a couple in New England, and all they do is this kind of litigation. Very well funded. So,
my favorite part of this, folks, by the way, just so is because we're here at the end of it. I wouldn't normally bring this up, but my favorite part of all this, folks, is when they win those judgments on those lawsuits. Guess how much of that money they are required to spend on the actual species involved that is being affected?
Very little.
None. Zero. None.
Yeah.
They can do whatever they want with that money.
Well, they pay their fees, and then they go off and they go off on some other windmill tilting exercise, right? That delays something like a copper mine in Arizona or a antimony mine in Montana.
Sierra Club. That's one of the other ones. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you just can't win. You literally can't win with them. But what happens is this makes it a national strategic imperative, and it gets things through the court more smoothly.
Well, this is fantastic. I can't wait until the small modular reactor is in my neighborhood. And I say that unironically. For
that
nuclear,
would be cool. That would be cool.
For nuclear, I am a YIMBY.
That's true. It's so true, man. If you can put these things in, it should be able to drop power rates.
Unbelievably.
This is the part nobody wants to talk about. They came out years ago with this equalized estimate against things like coal and natural gas, and falsified the data that created the need for windmills and solar farms. That's the most expensive shit you ever wanted to see.
Now hold on, because you just said something very important that were this a normal day, I would have tried to slap onto the show notes. Turns out that a bunch of Australian scientists that have been pushing a bunch of climate data that a whole bunch of the rest of the world was using as the basis for, solar power and wind power are actually economical, and a bunch of other claims about stuff entirely unvetted. Nobody even looked at the study. They just took it, published it, and ran with it.
Yeah, the concept of normalized cost. I had that thrown at me 10, 15 years ago. And I remember looking at the CEO of the company and saying, who did this? And it was, in that time, it was a European investment bank that should remain nameless. And I said, does everybody believe this data? And everybody grinned. Nobody said yes. Everybody grinned, because it was the industry standard on which they were justifying their whole business model. Which is we're cheaper. And I said, how do you know? And I got this report handed to me, and it was equalized or normalized rates against oil and gas. And I said, well, so you're 6 cents cheaper according to the report. I said, I know that your cost of installation is, X more than the next therm of power generated by a coal plant. How is it possible? How do you get over that? It says right in the report. And it literally became gospel. Everybody used that same chart.
Oh my goodness. Happy Plague Doctor. Congratulations, my friend. I am legitimately jealous beyond belief. That's awesome.
So there was also a U.S. representative just the other day who called some senator an idiot because they said solar panels don't generate power at night and windmills don't generate power when there's no wind, which is absolutely true. And the problem is people believe these fallacies that no, the solar power, it can still generate power at night, and windmills don't need wind to produce power. Yes, they do. They're fallacies. People just believe them because science says so.
Well,
By the way, we used to spray our children with DDT because science said so.
Correct.
I used to play in the DDT fog, Joe. That was a game.
It was like last week, Jim.
Yeah, my memory's going. So, well, one of the things you have to remember on when you argue that, and I've stepped into this trap twice, and I won't again. When you're arguing wind and solar with people, they look at you and they get this really nasty grin on their face, and they go, "But batteries solve all the problems."
Okay.
So they figured out the next gig is we're going to put batteries everywhere because that solves the problem. You charge the batteries, and then at night your power comes from the batteries. What they don't understand is we don't have the capacity to produce the batteries, and somebody has to pay for them.
Yeah, and what's starting to catch up with them now is that a lot of the farmers that they did short-term leases for to do these solar panels on are now
Want 'em
coming back
gone.
with, yeah, well, not just want them gone. Some of them that have got them gone are coming back with environmental studies that say, hey, you know those solar panels that you told me would entirely unaffect my land? They leached lethal levels of lead and other heavy metals into the soil because you used cheap Chinese panels that were the cheapest possible available.
Not to mention that mining for lithium for batteries is 10 times worse for the environment than mining for gas and oil.
Yeah, people don't want to get into that tit for tat argument. So it's the next step of, well, you conservatives are stupid because we'll just put batteries there. It's like, okay, well, you figure out how to get scalable batteries, and you can slap them on your place. I'm all down for nuclear power. The thing that's different now is all the high tech companies are pushing nuclear for their own use. All the AI platforms require nuclear level power.
Oh yeah.
So they'll drive it.
Well,
They'll drive it through California.
Well, and remember that these are the same companies who drove the front end of the we're going to put solar panels on every square inch of our roofs revolution and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're not picky. They just want their power.
Well, they also want to co-invest in the various mechanisms by which they generate their own revenue. So all of the venture capital companies and the private equity companies are into nuclear power now, and they're all paying off the California senators and congressmen. And they will get in line. The same. So this is the problem I have. The same people who took nuclear power away from this country, being paid for by foreign entities, are the people now arguing for it. Yeah, it's infuriating to me to have a Democrat.
And ironically, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jim.
No, it's just infuriating when the Democrats, nuclear power, it's the only way, and you look at them and you just shake your head. It's like, there were street battles, not unlike No King's Day that's coming up. There were leftist street battles about this
over nuclear
decades here and in Europe, funded by the Russians and the Chinese and American idiots, right?
By the way, that's not speculation.
Jane Fonda and her husband were behind that crap.
Yeah, it's not speculation, by the way. We've found, like, the funding. That's absolutely true. Russia absolutely funded and promoted what was, like, the main force behind the American anti-nuclear movement.
And let's call a spade a shovel and point out See what I did there? And point out that these companies who covered their roofs with solar panels did so solely for subsidies and tax breaks. They didn't do it because they thought it was going to solve the problem. Yeah.
It was all short-term tax breaks. So the only way solar and wind make any sense is with massive government subsidy. And nobody wanted. Everybody's like, "Oh, you hate the environment." No, if you're getting like 22 to 23 watts out of a solar panel, you're going to have 30 or 40% offset somewhere in the mathematics around it. And everybody's like, well, I have it on my house. The one place where solar makes sense is for a homeowner or a landowner.
A single home, yeah.
You do it yourself, off grid, put a battery in your wall, more power to you, drive a Tesla, go for it. But that's $150,000 of infrastructure, right? Not everybody can go out and sign a check for it. I got a bunch of friends in California and the Western U.S. who did it, but they went out and scripted $150,000.
And as I've mentioned
by the way,
before,
talk to your
Go ahead.
insurance company first, because good luck getting homeowners insurance with a Powerwall.
Yes.
So it's gonna drive your prices way up, and it's gonna get out there. And by the way, for those who aren't clear, government subsidies is socialism, kids. I'm just throwing that out there.
Let me get worse for you there, now that we've brought up the old government subsidies thing. Hey, fun fact, if the government installs the solar panels on your roof, guess who the solar panels and the roof belong to? Not a joke. The government. Hey, guess who can access all the areas where those solar panels hook up to your system? The government at any time, because now it's a part of the power infrastructure. So just like if you have a power pole on your property, they can come without warning you to come work on the power pole. Guess who can now come inside your house and up onto your roof any goddamn time of day or night they want without any warning? Don't let the government put solar panels on your roof, kids. All right, moving on. Hopefully we get just nuclear in everybody's backyard. That's fantastic. I just want to say one of the key bits of technology that does make this work before we move on, that I'm really excited about, because basically where they throttled us before is they stopped us from being able to have a nuclear fuel depository. That's what he was talking about in Yucca Mountain. We basically built a giant nuclear fuel repository. We researched ways to make sure that even if all of society fell apart, we installed symbols that would still communicate that this place was dangerous and don't dig here. And then after we got all that done and started installing it, they shut it off, and that's what killed most of nuclear in the U.S. But now we've figured out a technology where pretty much anywhere, provided a couple of very basic geological conditions, you can dig a borehole on site that's like 3 inches wide, and they have like 6 inches wide, and they have new waste disposal technology that allows them to actually do all of that on site permanently. It's really amazing stuff. All right, gents. That's it for odds and ends. Joe, you wanna talk a little tactical wisdom?
Yeah. After this weekend's Mountain Readiness Expo, you can find me at the Brush Beater Training Center for Fieldcraft Tuesday through Thursday. What is that? The 19th through the 21st, or 21st to 23rd? I think it's 21st to the 23rd. Whatever it is, we're going to be doing Fieldcraft. There are still some slots left. I had a guy ask me last night. Just show up, bring cash. We'll get you hooked up. We'll do the class and have a good time. Then after that, we're going to run the Scout course and the Recce course before I get on my merry way back to Montana, the home of the free. What is it they say, Jim? Freedom's last stand. So come check it all out. Buy some books. Buy some radio pouches. I'll see you somewhere out on the road.
Perfect. And then I don't have a crazy ad, but yeah, head on over to brushbeaters.store, and if you guys need optics, or if you guys need pretty much anything, including other training courses that Joe doesn't offer, like the tactical life-saving course, or there's a bunch of them. Hop on over there, use code CFC10. That gets you a 5% discount on almost everything in the store. Well, all right, gents. It's time to move into that main topic. Let me do some shuffling, though. I think we'll talk about the story you brought us first,
It's
Jim.
China.
It is. It's China. So, gents, in case you didn't see it, we had a bit of an incident. This week. U.S. backs Philippine ally after China warns over vessel crash. It's a crowded headline. So, a vessel crashed. I believe another Chinese vessel crashed into another Filipino vessel. And then the U.S. issued a statement saying that we would back the Philippines. And then China issued a warning. Am I getting that correct, Jim?
Yeah, basically the language shifted in the press release. And so the U.S. is now saying, look, an attack on any Philippine vessel. So not just naval vessels. So the Chinese have tried their, in the salami slicing game, they've tried to say, well, the Coast Guard is not really the Navy, and so the Coast Guard asserting power over the Bureau of Fisheries vessel in this case isn't really a power play and isn't a violation of anything. And the U.S. has basically come out and said, don't touch anything that the Philippine government has, or it will be seen as a problem. And if there's any violence beyond this level, we'll go back to 1951 and the Mutual Defense Treaty. So it's being spelled out in the responses now from the State Department and from the U.S. So it's just a shift. I think the red lines are being tossed onto the marker, and these are not Barack Obama red lines. These are fairly serious red lines from the Trump team.
Ah, well, and I'd say that another thing it's kind of different about this is that suddenly the U.S. finds itself with its attention far less divided. And
it hasn't been missed at all.
Beijing seems awful twitchy.
They're very twitchy. That's a good observation, man. Yeah, they're twitchy. So they're involved in the fourth plenum, where they're doing their planning on their 5-year plan, and all the decisions are being made. But it's clear that there's a lot of angst about this because the repolarization of the Middle East towards the United States and Europe is something the Chinese just can't allow. It undermines their recovery strategy vis-a-vis the United States closing its borders. So combined with the tariffs, the Chinese are under immense economic pressure all of a sudden. And if oil prices are rationalized worldwide by some opening of Iranian oil access or an effective mechanism to cut off Russian access or a way to bring the cost per barrel down $5 to $8, it smacks the hell out of Putin's war machine. So there are a lot of different things in this that are going to be fun to watch, a lot of variables. But the number one variable is we do have to stand with the Philippines. And I think we're going to do it. So,
oh, God, it's so weird. There's this feeling of something that's been missing since, I don't know, 2009, somewhere around the Scarborough Shoals, that it's suddenly back.
You know, I think, too, that Jim's mention of the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty is important because if it was, say, 1955 and China rammed an allied ship, we would put something of theirs on the bottom.
Oh,
and
yes, much tonnage.
We need to pretty much return to those days of deterrence through strength, because otherwise, just like Jim said, you salami slice your way to what your goals were. Right? You end up taking it little by little by pushing the edges when nobody ever pushes you back. And that's a really big problem, especially with China. And this battle was ironic because it was not at Second Thomas Shoal where they all have been. This was at Sandy Cay, a little bit further away, and another area that China is pushing on. They're not just pushing in any one place. They're pushing all the way around. Meanwhile, they're also pushing the Japanese in the Senkakus, because I refuse to call them the Dayus, and they're also pushing the Vietnamese in the Spratlys. So it's not just any one place. And also, by the way, the Koreans in the West Sea. So they're really pushing everywhere and trying to expand their zone of influence. And the one big comment I would make when Jim mentioned the economics of all this is that, gosh, there's never been a time when an economic crisis has led to a war.
Yeah, thank God, Joe.
Oh, God. Yeah, we could also talk about that because China's in, from what I have seen, China's not in a great place economically. They're hurting pretty bad right now.
Well, they're getting back to the point where they're having to subsidize exports to new markets. So they're really pushing Latin America. They're pushing Africa. They're doing the global South. You're seeing everybody pop back up and talk global South.
Well, and they're pissing people off because they're doing an old practice that they had learned to stop doing, but they've started doing market dumping again. Absolutely.
It's subsidized dumping. So what happens is, you know, let's say I manufacture heavy trucks and I'm stuck with 50 or 100 extra heavy trucks. I can load them on a government ship and I can send them to a government client state. and the government will give me 10% of the value of that in cash up front, right? So it's like a value-added tax rebate structure. And 9 times out of 10, the factory in China is a state-owned entity. And so off go these state-owned entity assets, and they go somewhere, and there's a loan made. It's beginning to sound like the USAID, right? And a loan
Yup.
gets made, and it comes back. The only difference is here in the U.S., it would come back to a bunch of consultants in D.C. In China, it goes back to the party, and it goes back into the central coffers of the party. And they don't care if the company goes bankrupt because they'll just reopen it, name it something else, and wash the debt because the debt's to them, right? So they have this ability to churn state-owned assets in a way that most people don't understand. So they can take long-term hurt better than us, but it still causes social instability, and it makes the government look bad, and they hate that.
Yeah, and honestly, this is not to get too far onto my own Watcher membership gift. Oh, did I miss one? Let me scroll up. Oh, holy cow. Yeah, I did. Thank you so much, Wrench Turner, for 10 gifted subs. Thanks, man. You are awesome. And your chickens are sitting in my garage getting ready to... today's their day, I think.
Yeah, and since he reared his head, I'm Wrench Turner. I'm not back until like November 1st. So, FYI.
Ah, yeah. But yeah, we need to spend some time, man. That'd be good. Need to get those damn things processed. Hope your potatoes are out of the ground and firmed up nicely.
Well, see, that's why I said that. I hope his potatoes are out of the ground too. But as we were talking commerce, I realized something. We announced one of our friends getting his position in the Pentagon, but we went right over another friend, Ross, known as the Huntsman on Twitter, is got a fairly senior position in commerce, and he's working on the China stuff and several of the other things. So it's good to have that asset. But I'll drop a little hint here. He and I have had some back channels conversation because he has a little bit of oversight over the Federal Communications Commission. So stay tuned for a project he and I are working on. So
is not a Rubicon actually going to get put in charge of the FCC?
No. But I made a comment about the FCC's overregulation in certain things. And he reached out to me. He's like, hey, man, you're actually right. Is there a way we can do something? So we've gone back and forth on some ideas to maybe dial back the FCC a little bit.
Man, wouldn't it be neat if we had a reinvigoration of American radio, and that might spark a reinvigoration of small American radio manufacturers? That'd be really cool.
Right.
Sorry, gents. Had to mute my mic. Sneezing. Anyways, now that my brain has started working again. Yes. So I think it's good that we finally step back up to our responsibilities to what do we used to call them? Our little brothers in the Philippines. Mostly because our lack of this is what allowed politicians in the Philippines to start making a turn towards China. And so they were in this kind of weird situation where China was attacking their civilians, and a lot of the politicians were bending over backwards still to appease China. It's been kind of a crap situation for everybody involved. My only question on this is when reopen Subic? Anybody?
It's underway.
Yeah, Clark would be first. But...
So Subic's airport, there's a new contract Cerberus has control over to fund the redevelopment of Subic Airport. Yeah. So it's underway.
Excellent. Yeah, for those unaware, the Philippines used to be one of our main repair docks outside of the U.S., right? And we lost it quite a long time ago during Subic we lost during a volcanic eruption, and then they never put the funding in to rebuild.
Other way, we lost Clark to a eruption. It was called Pinatubo.
Oh, right.
and we gave up Subic. But now in Subic, you have Cerberus coming in to do the airport. You have Hanwha, the Koreans, and a few other organizations running the docks. But the Americans are putting billions of dollars to work trying to rekindle the capabilities in Subic. I'm of mixed thought on this. I think it's too close and too vulnerable. But it is a really nice port, and Philippines has great people, great skills, especially great maritime skills, and so the shipyards could be a very good way to do repair in theater. But location, right?
Where would you put a repair port? A little further out,
further south.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go into the southern Visayas, or maybe even down to Mindanao.
Okay. A lot of fun island options out there.
Yeah, the infrastructure is already in Subic, which is what they're thinking, which is, all the hard work, the hardscape, the concrete. It's a good port.
But it is within missile range, though, is it not?
Oh, very much so. And it's in the lots of missile band, not the few missile band. But I think what they're thinking is it really doesn't matter. It does matter. You get an extra 500 miles. It's hopeful.
We'll see. It does, though, look inevitable that that's going to be under use, and potentially sooner than anybody thought, which does add credence to using places that are already set up. So, speaking of which, things that make it look like the time is short, gentlemen, did you see the Zhonggong 401? Making its grand transition out of its production harbor up to where it's stationed. This is the main body of that. We showed you guys this before. This is China's solution for getting around that whole "you can only invade when it's calm" problem. Basically, this is a barge / pier. Those things that you see on top there drive down into the sea floor and stabilize the structure, and then it creates a giant bridge to the land, and then multiple other of these that are smaller pull up next to it, and then this can transport tanks, and then those can transport tanks, and then those basically transform into a little piering system that boats can pull up to and then unload, and then the whole thing just basically becomes a big bridge network.
An invasion causeway.
Pretty much. Yeah. But remember, they don't have the the landing capabilities, and they certainly can't whip that together within 6 months.
Listen, they've converted so many civilian row-rows, roll-on, roll-offs, that if you combine that with this, they can launch an invasion tomorrow.
Yeah, and that is the plan, by the way. That's what these are designed to do, is combine with row-rows and other smaller ships. Basically, the whole little privatized flotilla that they're able to China's able to summon up.
They own everything. So
yep.
Let me just say, by the way, that Ohio has the data coverage it deserves. Anyway, carry on.
We figured. When you said no Buckies, we figured. So yeah, China very publicly rolled that out from its production base, and it's heading south to Yuan base, is what it looks like, which is the base where all the stockpiled capabilities for invading Taiwan are kept, because it's the closest point to Taiwan. But they're not getting their own way, and not just from us, it turns out. It turns out that the EU and China, that happy little lovers relationship that they had there for a little while, has, it started to sour, wouldn't you know it? And the EU has now started to ratchet up pressure on China as well. They want them to transfer a bunch of semiconductor production technology, which there's a lot of things about this that make me question things. First of all, the first thing is, wait a minute, when did Europe decide they were going to start producing their own electronics again? That's something they gave up even before we did. Anybody?
Yeah.
Or is it just the Dutch?
No. It's the Finns with Nokia. It's the Swedes with Ericsson. It's all of the semiconductor guys. The Dutch have some technology and capabilities that we did not want the Chinese to have. The Dutch pulled that. This company specifically did some R&D on top of some of those Dutch capabilities, and they want it all back. They don't want the Chinese controlling the company the way they were, so they seized the company back. Actually, they didn't seize the company. They booted the CEO, who was according to the Dutch secret police, not operating on the right level. So it's a Dutch asset now. And what the Chinese forget is other countries can pull the games that the Chinese pull all the time. So sovereign power is sovereign power.
So I guess this must be them demanding one of the underlying technologies that's used in that production, I suppose.
I believe so.
Okay. So yeah, things are not looking good for China, and generally, if you look back on the CCP's, very short, by the way, only 50 years old, right? But if we look back on the CCP's 50-year-old history, and I guess with a little bit more before that, they've only been in control of the country for 50 years, but they've been a party for longer than that. When you squeeze them, they do tend to have one very predictable reaction.
Yeah,
they get really aggressive.
Yeah, they get the Wu Mao go to town, and then they are forced to take an action to show that they will take an action. So we're at the point where they're forcing action. You see it in the Philippines. We'll see what else they do. But they're scrambling around trying to make nice with people who are looking at them going, wow, you've asked for a lot over the last 30 years as a developing country. Now you're a power. You need to stop doing the things you used to do and kind of step up to the role of more of a nation state instead of an ethno-nation state. And we'll see if it happens.
Well, China seems to be looking back and saying, no, I thought we sinicized you idiots.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just funny to watch. It's funny to watch Beijing be a banner carrier for Hamas at a time when they've crushed Islam in their country and they're crushing Christianity in their country. And they come out with all these arm waving happinesses of supporting foreign minorities. In China, if you don't comply, you're dog meat. And they just swept up a bunch of Christian folk in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And have tried to tie the Christian order to a foreign intelligence operation. So, same games, different week. It's hard to be a Christian in China.
What's funny is I'm kind of involved tangentially in that with Every Man a Warrior. They had several of their people picked up in that sweep. And they say they're like an intelligence agency because, unfortunately, Christian missionary operations are forced to operate like an intelligence agency and use intelligence tradecraft in order to even exist in the People's Republic. So, and if you think that that's exaggeration, it's not. They use fake passports. They have dead drops. They have meats and all that stuff. And it's your future, by the way. When you look at the angling and the messaging around Christianity in America, you're not too far down that road yourself.
Yeah, and just know, as long as we're here talking about it, so many of you churches that played ball to try and be allowed officially to be able to do anything within China.
I can't imagine who you're calling out.
Gee, yeah, who could it possibly be? How do you feel about that now? How's that looking now? Good Lord. There's some people who have a lot of answering to do. Anyhow. The other thing that's happening that I've noticed, actually, this is a great chart, I didn't know this was in here, is this whole, this rare earths cutoff thing. America doesn't seem to be the only people who are pissed off about it. A lot of other foreign countries that aren't even cut off appear to be making stinks about how this is inappropriate behavior. Other countries, on the other hand, like Myanmar, are stepping up production and taking investment.
Yeah, the Chinese with their arm waving distort things, but we've known this was a problem going back 10 years, right? More. And I mean, the F-35 relied on Chinese magnets in some of its subsystems, right? And they knew this, and yet we continued to skate along, and nobody wanted to pull the trigger on it because the environmentalists would have just lost their minds. Now it's a national security interest, so what's going to happen is everything's going to come in quickly. The problem is you have to do long-term agreements for the people who invest in these industries and say, look, for the next 30 years, we will not allow the importation of these materials. So it raises the cost basis on a lot of this stuff to do it properly and do it within the environmental restraints that are here in the United States or in Europe or in other places. But it's worthwhile. I mean, critical minerals, critical materials. If you can produce them in your country, you should. But we have access to these ores. They exist in North America. We have mines that supply a lot of this stuff, and there's one on the border of California and Arizona, or is it California and Nevada? I always forget. But it used to be opened once in a while, and the EPA would come shut it down, and then the Cal EPA and Cal OSHA would come shut it down. Nobody in the West has allowed mining to really occur. They fight hoof and nail, and they fight through the government bureaucracy, and they crush them into submission and closure. So we created the monster ourselves. We just need to understand that we have to bite the bullet and produce this stuff. So that's underway, hopefully, and hopefully it's wrapped in a long-term agreement that no foreign entity can import these strategically important materials to force businesses into bankruptcy, which is what the Chinese did. And they did it in a calculated way, and we watched them do it in a calculated way. And the investment banking community cooperated in funding it and structuring it, moving the assets. And so we created this monster. We have to unwrap it now.
Hopefully it happens with a swiftness. Because I had always felt like the export ban of rare earths was probably a good sign that China's getting ready to kick off.
You know, there was a release of capital from the Pentagon recently to go around and buy up whatever's in the marketplace to have a strategic reserve. Yeah. I'm amazed it took this long. Seriously.
No, it should have happened before they made a declaration.
It should exactly. Oh, here's the money. Raise your prices. Yeah, but it's one of those things of, you know, they're showing up in places in Africa and picking all the ore up. What that deprives is it deprives the raw material going to China, right? And so right. the gig with the Chinese was, okay, we'll fund your mine, but we won't fund processing of the material in Australia or Africa or South America. You've got to send the raw material. You got to send it back to us, and we'll finish it here. So if you go around the world and you see what's in short supply, metals are not in short supply. Rare earth is not in short supply. The ability to process these things is in short supply. We shut all of our metal technology and smelter technology down. And the stuff we have is 30, 40, 50 years old. The Chinese stuff is all brand new. So they have an efficiency in China that we don't have. And if you go around, and I've had these arguments in the last 24 months, which is, why haven't you reopened the mine? Well, you know, the market, how do we know prices will stay up? This is where governments have got to get involved and say, look, we're going to produce copper here. We're going to produce antimony here. We're going to produce tungsten here. We can't just fly around the planet and buy it on the open market when we have a shortage. It just doesn't work, right? That's not resilient. That's not stable, and that's not strategy. So this reactiveness within the procurement world has got to turn into a 30 to 50 year planning cycle. And the West has never been good at that.
What we need is for some Native American tribe to find out that they have very large supply of it on an area of land they don't care very much about. But
it's interesting you say that, because there are tribes here in the Western U.S. and in Canada who have control over large swaths of very high quality mineable materials. They're so heavily swayed left after years and years and years of cooperation on this argument that they're very difficult to work with on mineral extraction and processing, even though it would be very beneficial for the tribal members. They are just by nature of their affiliation for the last 30 to 40 years, they are left wing in the bias of their thinking and investment. There are going to be some exceptions, but very hard place to do business, and it just adds another layer to decision making that becomes difficult as it gets politically harder, right? So the projects sound good, everybody runs in, and then everybody starts to feather their own nests, and at the end of it, it isn't about the project, it's about the nest feathering.
Yeah. It's true, but if we can finally make that work somewhere, that does shield
left
you
wing
from
is a
all
very
the,
charitable description for communism.
It is. It is. Well, if we can just flip a few of them, it does.
Joe's just ornery because he's driving through Ohio. Joe, you see any commies in Ohio?
They're all commies in Ohio.
Speaking of commies, moving on to our second topic, gents. Schumer calling for a forceful uprising against the Trump administration. Didn't think you had it in you, Chucky.
Oh man, these guys. This No King's Day is going to be a shit show. They're driving this to become a shit show, and it is 100% the DNC and the list of crazies. They've given up being normal, and they've sold out to Ocasio and the people at the fringe of Ocasioville. So we're talking the Mamdani, Antifa, Acorn. And what's different about this one is they've got the street gangs in Chicago and New York agitated enough that it'll get ugly. It'll get ugly like, what was it, the Democratic convention in, what was it, 68 in Chicago, Joe?
It was.
Yeah. I knew a guy who was a sergeant there, and he was with an MP unit, and I had a very nice conversation with him. I was actually working for him for a while, and he looked at me. He said, they gave us big sticks in those days, and so if you want to go back and see what this is going to look like, pull up the MPs engaged in riot in Chicago in 1968, and then go back and put it up against the notes of Schumer saying there's no place for the National Guard on the streets of America. The DNC brings this whenever the DNC wants to bring this. It's their way.
Interestingly, on the streets of America is literally the definition of what the National Guard is for.
It's so true. And you get these people who are just exasperated by, oh my God, they're sending the National Guard, they're sending soldiers in. That's why they're there. They're there because for the first 2 weeks of the engagement in Chicago, the state police wouldn't do anything and the local police wouldn't do anything. So you, by nature, have to backfill your security with national assets. What they're for.
So what's this most recent ruling everybody's flipping their lids about? Some federal judge said that the Army has to be used first?
No, this is the Insurrection Act bullshit. So what they're terribly aggressive about is they want Trump. They're trying to force Trump into the corner before No King's Day. They're trying to force him into using the Insurrection Act. And, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be absurd if they do it. But
and the minute he does, they're going to scream, Trump declared martial law. Instantly.
He's the king. He's the king. Yeah, exactly. But that's what they're trying to orchestrate here.
Well, and I'll point out that the National Guard is indeed part of the Army. But if you back up the comments of all of these people, they were cheering it on in the aftermath of January 6th. And
they did.
So it's just ingenuous from that standpoint alone.
Yeah, it's become so trite. I mean, it's clear the judge who says he has to do the Insurrection Act is talking to the lawyers who are talking to Schumer, and they're saying, wouldn't it be great? We can get Trump to do this before, what is it, the 18th? They're
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, they're all playing games, and this is not gameplay. This is serious shit. And people are dressing up in frog costumes and cosplay and all this other stuff. It's still really serious stuff.
Somewhere in heaven, the founding fathers are saying, "You let district court judges do what?"
Yeah, exactly. No, but this goes back. This goes back to the discussion of the environmental movement. Once you get these systems and these people up and running as obstructionary, they take it on as their mission in life is to become obstructionary. So the environmental groups have only known funded obstructionism, and I think that the legal guild, the lawyers, and the judiciary have been taught it's their job to obstruct. And I think a lot of them, come through school, go become lawyers for these purposes of social obstructionism. And the ones that end up in the nonprofits and then come up through environmental or one of the other left-wing focused practices, immigration, they end up getting into these judgeships, and their job is to moderate anything that they find personally offensive, when in fact it's not constitutional issues that they're addressing. They're addressing their own biases, and I'm rather tired of it.
Well, I think there's probably some to do with that. I don't know. You'd think they would have done it before last year. Ever.
Well, I think they've been building up to it, and I think that Brazil was a test case, and they learned that they can use a court system to usurp a constitution, and now they're trying to push it full court press here. But it's ironic that they will screech about tyranny. Meanwhile, they'll allow a single district court judge to make a ruling for the entire nation based on his own personal opinion.
Somebody's asking in the chat, I thought they had a No King's Day. Yes, they No King's Day, even at the time, was planned to be a multi-event thing. They were advertising even on the day the first one happened that there would be another one in the fall.
It is going to be a coalescing of every grievance organization on the planet under one banner, which is send more money, we need to continue the grievance.
Yeah. I think the first one was more of an advertising effort for this second one, which is why it was mostly just their Boomer Waffen core.
Yeah, it was a brand rollout, and now this big event's coming, and they're really trying to get the Insurrection Act to be a stepping stone to it, and hopefully the Trump people are looking and laughing and saying, no, we're not going to step in that hole right now for you.
Yeah, let me remind everyone of a little-known incident that the Democrats would like you to forget. And that's the assault of two Wisconsin lawmakers by a known Democratic operative that they tried to claim was right-wing, yet he had flyers for No King's Day in his vehicle. The man that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, who was just arrested in Kenosha, also had No King's Day flyers and has been talking a lot about No King's Day. So I would anticipate the violence this time to be much, much higher than the last time.
Yeah. No, I don't know why I'm always shocked when this happens, but I always go, okay, so I hear a story from the Democrats. I go through the effort to debunk it, look through all the story myself, look it up, figure out it's false, show it to a bunch of them, and then I figure, well, that's debunked. And then, wouldn't you know it, months, years later, we come back and they're still operating on the same debunked bullshit as though it were true.
So if you look at who's funding this, right? Let's see what the list is here. ACLU, Vote to Save America. All right. New York Times front page, that full page ad that No Kings did, that's Christy Walton of Walmart. What else do we have here? What is it? The 5501 movement. Volunteers and activists across the country. So they're doing astroturfing in pretty much every country, every state.
51,
yeah, they're trying to do so. It's 100% astroturfing people, and this is going to be a conglomeration of all crazies, right? So this is just like 68. It's going to be the hippies, the yippies, the weathermen, and whoever else in the acronym soup is available. And it's a social event. It's kind of like the crowds outside the White House when they had to put Trump in the bunker. If you went and looked at the demographic of that was a demographic of people who were out of work, hanging on, being paid because of COVID, out there socializing in the park in front of the White House because it was the only thing to do in D.C. at the time, right? So you had what I call the ponytail class, all out there standing around watching the people burn the structures in the park and then go after the church. And it was the NGOs, it was the interns from the Hill who had all been sent home for COVID. They're all hanging out in the park. And it was ugly, man. It was ugly. But the same people are going to show up for this. It's going to be a day in the park. Hopefully it rains in the major cities. That'd be good. I just get the feeling it's going to be a shit show. But I tell you what, it's going to be a freak show of epic capacity, because you're going to have these people in their little inflatable frog suits, and you're going to have the transgender community. You're going to have every flag known to man. And I don't think that the volunteers and the professional agitators are going to have fun hurting this soup of people. It's going to be interesting to watch.
I'm stealing the term ponytail class because that's exactly right. The ponytail intellectuals.
Well, speaking
just
of
go look. People forget pretty quick, but pull up the video when they were burning the bathrooms in the park across from the White House, and when they started burning that church, and look at who's one step back from the point of contact. So you got Secret Service guys, you've got gas, you've got smoke, you've got fire, and then you've got all these young intern age kids from DC who went down to see what was going on in the park. And every image has that in it. And it's I think that's what No Kings is going to look like.
Little reminder of the summer of love. Yeah, it's funny as I'm looking through all these photos trying to find that. Boy. Yep. Well, speaking of people who keep popping back up over and over and over again, Obama issues warning against rising authoritarianism. Man. Sorry,
which is pretty darn rich coming from that guy.
My brain just reset from the irony. That's wow.
Keep in mind, this is the man who said there are so many things I want to do, but the Constitution won't let me.
Before we go any further in this, I do not possibly see how America can come to peace until the worldviews around this particular man are reconciled. Or shall I say, until the leftist worldview around this man is reconciled with the reality. Basically issued a big statement again, called Trump the American Viktor Orban, which... Okay.
I don't know if that's a bad thing.
That's where I'm getting. I'm a little bit like, all right, go off. Yeah, this is the general of the opposite side giving a buck up speech to his forces. I don't know. Here's the thing. Everybody who I've seen doing projections has been doing projections on full violence breaking out in America between the next 3 to 4 years. 3 to 10 years. I am telling you right now that the plays that are being made do not suggest we have anywhere near that long. Am I crazy?
No, and I'm going to point out the symbolism in the video, right? So Barack Obama has always been the consummate showman. He knows how to set the stage. When he put out this video, what's he wearing? A black suit, the black shirt, the background is dark. He is setting a very dystopian image here, and that's by design. He's trying to make people think time is short, the days are dark, it's time to do something.
Well, so I just pulled up No Kings to look at the local media. So if you look at the headlines for No Kings. No Kings protests could draw historic turnout in pushback on Trump. That's USA Today. The Akron, since Joe is celebrating his transit of Ohio, Akron Beacon Journal. What to know about No Kings rallies planned around Greater Akron for Saturday, right? So the Bulwark, all of our favorite, right? No Kings has Republicans in disarray. Yeah. And Newsweek, still that beautiful rag. Map and list of No Kings protests against Trump, October 18th, 6 hours ago. So what you have here is a flurry of really tightly controlled media to local markets ramping up for the weekend. So this is a local event. This is a social event for the ponytail class, Joe. So it's being marketed as such. Axios, No Kings protests set in Nashville, Middle Tennessee suburbs. So they're targeting districts they know they need in the midterm. That's what's underway here, folks. This is not unplanned. This is not spontaneous. It's not driven by individual emotion. It is manipulated. It is astroturfing of the vulnerable ponytail class. And they're going to show up everywhere. And in their midst will be the Antifa, Acorn, Occupy guys, girls, frogs, and other cosplay soldiers. And it will be a shit show. So I recommend you watch it from a distance, but stay out of the crowds.
There will be one in Kalispell, Montana, I have been told. So
no doubt the ponytail class up there will be involved. Anywhere. So you've got a really interesting situation. If you're a furloughed federal employee, and we know the demographic of most federal employees, they will be out. 50% of them, let's say, will be out playing these games because they're free, they're angry. They've watched their invertebrate study money disappear, and they're pissed. So you've got the grievance underway, and I'll tell you, the cherry on this is going to be the insurrection play. They're pushing for it, so I remain ever hopeful.
Yeah, so everybody's talking about where all the protests are. I'm sure they're going to do the exact same thing they did last time when they did the No Kings thing. They're going to start smaller events in outlying communities in the morning. They're going to shuttle bus those people from those outlying small towns to mid-sized towns, and then they're going to shuttle everybody from those mid-sized town events to the main city event, wherever your main regional city is. So, and
that's where they mix in the agitators, and that's where the event gets driven past its, isn't it nice that everybody's up in arms against Trump? The arms come out after dark in the major cities. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So, fun times ahead, folks. I would get your shopping done probably tomorrow. Batten down the hatches for the weekend. That's what I'm doing. And in our final story, as Joe had mentioned before, Kenosha man accused of threatening FBI agent held without bail. Kenosha man, a military veteran, was ordered detained without bail after federal authorities say he posted violent threats toward a federal agent and was found with a rifle in his vehicle. A rifle and No Kings protester signs. Here, let's watch this video real quick.
When y'all's bodies lay motionless on the ground, ice patch facing up at the sky.
He included music. He included copyrighted music, so we can't. That's all right. He posted what he said there, so yeah. Terrible shit that I'm not gonna repeat, but homeboy's in prison now.
Yeah, he was gonna loot their dead bodies. I mean, you can't. That goes over the line of free speech, and then the fact that he's found with a rifle should tell you something.
Hey, but remember, you'll be told by every Democrat that it's not all of them, right? This is just the loony ones. Well, that might be slightly correct if and it would be right, except for the normal ones are wielding the loony ones as a weapon knowingly.
Well, first of all, that article tries to paint a different image by saying, and Army vet, they're trying to imply something right-wing there, right, which is absolutely ludicrous. But also, this goes to everyone on the right who keeps telling me, hey, you don't have to worry about the left. They don't train. They don't have guns, all this other nonsense. An untrained crazy who gets lucky kills you just as dead as a highly trained ISIS operative. It's really that simple. You have to be aware of it, and you have to know that they're out there, and they are planning on violence.
A lot of unmanned Democrat homes. Weird, right?
So
Well,
if you look at the No Kings, I mean, I'm still poking at the No Kings thing here. If you look at the headlines, the guy who's the organizer, Ezra 11th, is out there saying it's going to be fun. It's going to be historic. They're trying to pull in the soft crowd because the soft crowd is the cover for the hard crowd. They need head count in the cities, and they'll do anything they can to get all these liberals agitated and in with whatever sign they want to bring, right? You can bring your Trantifa sign. They don't care as long as you show up. The difficulty starts when the Black Bloc boys show up and start throwing their weight around and breaking things. And we know that happens. It always happens. So they're trying to take this one step up before the weekend. They would love the Trump people to do something that threw gasoline on this. It'll be interesting to see if there's an event that drives that, because if you read between the lines and all the press releases, it's what they're hoping for, is that sense of urgency to bring the crowd. I don't know if they've gotten it yet, but this will bring millions of people out. What we don't want it to do is bring tens of millions of people out.
Ezra Levin being the organizer is a name that's just as interesting as Claudia Sheinbaum being the president of Mexico.
It sure is. Ezra's an interesting cat, and by interesting I mean horrific piece of shit. All right, folks. Well, that's kind of our show for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you so much for being here, Joe and Jim. Appreciate both of you. Let's see. Everybody in the chat, I think I've caught up on all your super chats. We sure as heck appreciate you joining us and supporting the show there. No, different Ezra. Different Ezra. There, yeah, Arctic Boy. Not the owner of Rebel News. No.
No, they need to just look up Indivisible, which is they're the leaders of Indivisible Project.
Yeah. Well, remember, guys, we'll have another show between now and then, but I would get all your stuff ready before Friday, and I'd be batting down for this weekend. So, as Joe or as Scott would say, stay safe.